In this interview, I talked to Charlie. Charlie was on the channel before because he published something like 450 different articles on his niche site that was brand new in something like 150 days. It was pretty amazing. He took massive action, invested quite a lot. So, in this interview, we're going to get an update about his site, how it went overall, because he's published, I think, about 500 articles or so. Once we cover that, we get into some of the details about a new project that he's working on, which is even crazier. He's going to be publishing 1,000 articles this year in 2021. He's already gotten quite a start. We're going to talk about all the details and some of the logistics and just management he's going to have to do. Couple quick things I want to let you know about. Number one, if you have questions, please leave a comment. Charlie will be sure to come back through and either, answer those comments, or we're going to record another video. Number two, Charlie has his own YouTube channel, so there's a link in the description so you can get to that and check it out. There's going to be more in-depth updates that Charlie is doing on his own channel over there. So those are very important. And the third thing is Charlie is actually documenting some of this stuff on my blog called Niche Site Project. There will be a link for that in the show notes as well. So basically, if you want to get some of the screenshots, if you want to look at this stuff in a little more depth, you can go to Niche Site Project, and each month Charlie is going to be providing us with an update. So let's get to the interview now. Last summer, I interviewed Charlie, and he published something like 450 blog posts in 100 and some odd days. It was extremely popular. It was a sort of a feat of just will and hiring people and getting a lot of content out there. And we're here to get an update. So, Charlie, how's it going today? It's been a little while.
Doug, I'm excited to be back. We got a big update, a lot of excitement, and we got a new project coming. So everything's going well so far.
Cool. And one thing I want to, mention right off the bat is you started a YouTube channel, which I think is pretty awesome. You have a few videos out there. So how's it been going so far?
Yeah, it's awesome. It seems like a lot of people are really interested in seeing how that first mega site has gone and getting a lot of positive feedback and a lot of good comments. So it's something I'm going to continue to do. Maybe a few videos a week to start out, and then a video per week from there.
Awesome. Yep. And I checked out a couple of the videos. So I encourage people to see Charlie's channel. And if you like it, certainly subscribe. So for this interview today, we're going to kind of catch up on what has happened with your site. So originally, I know people can go back and watch the first video, but we'll just do a quick recap. So what was your initial goal when you started this niche site in, I guess, authority site, really?
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna run through it rather quickly just because we went to it in such depth on the first video on your channel. But when I started this website, the goal was to make commissions through Amazon. I wanted to put out blog posts that were doing product reviews, doing best X for Y, using KGR terms, and just get traffic to my blog so I could push those users to Amazon. And the goal was to hopefully get $1,000 per month. And I started this back in March of 2020 during the first week of COVID. We had the work from home instruction. I started building the site. I didn't know COVID would last this long, but I used it as an opportunity to really pump out a lot of content and grow my site with a team of writers. So the beginning of the site, I'd say the first 50, 60 articles I wrote on my own. From that point on, I was really excited about publishing more content. So I started looking into how to get content writers and use different writing agencies, used Upwork, and the time I came on for your video is at about 450 articles. And I was seeing some really strong growth right off the bat, which made it really exciting. I was getting decent sales on Amazon where I was making a couple hundred dollars a month. And then I started adding ads to my website. And I thought, okay, Amazon's great, but I can also make money with ads. So maybe the more important thing is traffic rather than just going after Amazon terms. So I really made a strong push towards informational content. After, a couple months of really focusing on Amazon, the last couple hundred articles were really just informational driven. I would strategically put some Amazon links in there. But as of December, which is when I stopped the massive content push, the total articles on the site is 526, which is really exciting. And the organic search traffic, it still hovers between 10 to 12,000 users per month. And the one thing I learned from this project that's kind of the part I didn't really account for was seasonality. My site saw some tremendous growth in the first couple months, ranging from April to August, and then it kind of leveled off from September, October, November, December. And even though I was putting out a ton of content, anywhere from 30 to 80 articles a month, it wasn't the content that was slowing down. It was just the seasonality of my niche. So I learned a lot from that, and it's kind of put me in the spot I am now, understanding building an authority website. There's a lot of pieces that go into it. Seasonality is a big one, but growth hasn't slowed down by any means. Articles are continuing to rank higher. I track my keywords, they continue to go up. It's just more the volume of those keywords being searched at this time of the year is significantly lower.
Can you let us know the earnings for, I guess, the last couple months, just so people can get an idea the amount that you're earning from roughly 10 to 12,000 visitors per month?
Yeah, so the cool thing was December was a strong month, but it was actually very similar to November. So I consider it a rather consistent amount of earnings. So December was about $350. I believe $200 were from ads and 150 was from Amazon affiliate, which I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot and it's not something to get super excited about, especially when you have that much content on a website. But adding in the seasonality and just the fact that so much of those articles didn't even have time to rank yet, I was pretty happy with it. And just the fact it's kind of an upward trajectory from the months prior.
And some people may be thinking, hey, 526 articles, that sounds expensive because you're not writing them yourself. So can you give us like a ballpark how much you've spent on the site, like all total, roughly?
Yeah, so there is obviously the additional cost of backlinks, which I did spend money on at different points throughout the project. But all in with content, I'm just around 15,000. And to date, if you add in all my months of earnings from Amazon and Ezoic ads, just about around the $1,200 to $1,300 mark.
Okay. And for people out there that are thinking, hey, you spent 15,000, you've made 1,200, like how do you respond? Like if your friend was like, hey man, what are you doing? This doesn't add up.
Well, the cool thing is, I actually had somebody try and sell me a site in this niche, and I saw their traffic charts and I saw their traffic in season versus out of season, and they were getting 3.5 times, sometimes more traffic in season for out of season. So I kind of evaluated my website based on the multiple right now, using that as an example. So if I'm making $350 out of season, and let's say I'm just making $1,000 in season, that gets me to around $700 a month in estimated earnings for the next year. And that's assuming no growth, no keywords go up, my site doesn't gain any authority. That's just where we're at now. So if you put a 30 times multiple on it, I mean, my site's worth anywhere between, 20 to 22 grand. And thinking it in terms of that way, I could say, well, I'm technically positive right now, right? I put all this money into an asset. My asset's technically worth X amount of dollars. I'm also collecting those monthly checks. So honestly, I'm pretty happy where I am right now, considering how much content still has to rank.
Okay. And just remind me, you work in finance, right?
Yeah, I guess that I kind of gave it
Yeah,
away.
yeah. No. That, I mean, that is the right. I mean, there's a few ways you can look at this, right? So you took action, you did a bunch of shit, and it's been a learning experience, and you have something to show on the other end. So can you break down a few things that you learned from this process, right?
Yeah, well, that's another thing you mentioned too. So what I learned from this, I honestly could put a dollar amount on that as well, and the dollar amount's to be determined on how my next projects do. Right? What I learned here, I mentioned it already, was seasonality, that being really important. But I learned so much about keyword research and understanding what articles actually get ranked and what articles actually bring in traffic. I wasted so much money on hiring writers to write about a topic that will probably never bring more than a couple visitors a month. I just didn't know keyword research that well early on, especially from the early months of April, May, and June. It's kind of crazy how a lot of my articles that are starting to rank are the more recent 100, 200 articles that I published. I got such a better feel for keyword research, uh, understanding how these sites work and being involved in the community. You see other, even YouTubers and looking at other blogs, you see how they rank newer keywords. And that's what really was the game changer for me, was saying, okay, now I got it. Now these are pieces of content that are going to rank. This is how you do keyword analysis, and this is how you write topics that actually bring in traffic.
So you mentioned backlinks and you mentioned paying for them. Can you tell us about your backlink strategy for this site?
Sure. So in the initial stages of my site, the first couple months, everything I did backlink wise was on my own effort. So me doing manual outreach and trying to get links on other sites in my niche. And I did get a lot of free links early on. I mentioned in our last video how I would go after resource links. I'd go after websites in my niche that were more local businesses, places I actually been to, people I somewhat knew, and said, hey, I created this website. Do you mind giving me a link? Do you mind giving it a resource? Or, hey, I wrote a review about your small business, about what you guys do. Can you throw me a link? And it actually really worked in a lot of cases. But then once those areas kind of ran out and people weren't answering my emails just because there was only so many people to reach out to, I did start buying links, and it wound up being between 10 to 15 niche edits a month. And I started buying them towards the end of May, and I did it through the end of August. And depending on the service providers, I did find some links that were a little more expensive, that were higher quality, and some links that weren't as expensive, but didn't really kind of move the needle or impact anything. And I wound up spending a few grand on backlinks, which looking back on now, I don't think I would have done that, especially in the early stages of my site. I still think it had an impact where content kind of shot up right away, and low competition keywords were getting some authority that pushed them up into the first page rather quickly. But I'd rather spend that money building more content, putting that content back into the site, going after real low competition keywords that really don't need backlinks to rank. And even if those articles bring in a couple visits a day, I think spending that money there is actually more helpful in growing your website early on, in my opinion.
And it's a classic issue that we see where your site's growing anyway. You publish content, it's aging a little bit, it's maybe improving in rankings, and it's really hard to tell, was that going to rank anyway, or was it the backlink that helped? Is there any way to tell? Like, how did you evaluate that?
So it's interesting. I remember when I was first getting advice from like an SEO consultant, he was telling me, let the article index, let it see where it ends up with no backlinks, just on your website's authority and age. And then from there, let's start sending links and seeing what happens. And I actually didn't mind that strategy because I could see if the content was actually liked by Google early on before I started sending links. And that was usually how I tested sending backlinks to pages that weren't the home page, right? A good chunk of my project was sending niche edits and guest posts that were just linking back to my homepage of my website, right? Like if I'm getting a resource link, odds are they're just referencing, my blog. But once I started using service providers, I could kind of target in on some pages and not really worry about getting those pages linked. And I had like, for example, I had one article that was searched like 2,000 times a month, and it was on the second page, second result, right? So number 12, if you think about it. And then I sent some links, and now that article's pushed all the way up to number 4, and it's getting quite a few views a day now. So that could be an example of an article that was definitely worth sending backlinks to. It's bringing in traffic. It's bringing in a couple sales through Amazon, and actually an informational keyword that has some links to Amazon. But that's a good example of how I invested money into buying links for a page, and it actually wound up, improving in rankings. Now, will that eventually get to 1, 2, or 3? I don't know. I mean, it's in a good spot now, and it's continuing to slowly climb. I wonder if general authority and age on just the website and the article itself will help. But always justifying backlinks becomes tricky. It seems like when in doubt, send it to the homepage of your website. And as your website grows, you're like, yeah, backlinks helped.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard to tell. However, when you do look at, really any industry, if you look at the top ranking sites, a lot of times those will have links. Now, did they get the links so that they can get to number 1, or they got the links because they were number 1? I don't know. There's no way to tell. So, but
That's a million
usually, I
dollar
mean,
question.
yeah. And I mean, it's a huge industry to sell links. So the other problem, I mean, I'm an affiliate for multiple companies that sell services. So, I mean, you can't, I hope people trust what I say, but everyone's biased in some way. Either they're selling you the backlink services or they're selling you something else instead of the backlink services. So it's like, who do you trust? You could find case studies and examples contradicting or proving whatever you want. So,
One thing I found really cool, and this is a helpful tip for when you're reviewing link services and finding the best backlinks to buy, is see if those links that are on websites that are actually making money and monetizing their content. It just shows that it's a more real website and it's actually providing value to users if they're able to monetize their own content. And a great example of this is if I get niche edits that are on a blog that has like Mediavine or AdThrive as like their ad agency, that means that blog is getting anywhere between 50 to 100,000 plus views. That's a great indicator that it's a live, healthy blog. And having a link from that could be a really good indicator to Google that you're on a credible website that's making money, that's adding value to the community. And I've noticed those backlinks usually come from the better service providers. They're not these like fake made up websites that they happen to just throw your link on. They're like, oh, yeah, it's a very old website. Well, what's really the story of that site? Is it like a true, genuine blog? Is it actually adding value to the users? So that's just like a key, like that's the thing I learned through the first project of building my site. Like what was really a home run backlink versus something that was just kind of a waste of money.
anything else with backlinks? Any big insights or helpful tips for people out there?
Other than that, I think another thing to remember early on too is speed of backlink building, right? I don't think it's bad to build backlinks. I think having them organically is obviously really important. But if you're going to be putting in a lot of backlinks in the first month of a website and you don't keep up that speed for the months after that follows, I think that can be a little dangerous just because you're kind of giving mixed signals to Google search, right? Like if you have a lot of links, okay, great, this website must have some healthy content. Let's think about how we can, crawl more pages or push ranks up higher. And then all of a sudden those links slow down. It's not like you're going to get penalized, but it could be more of a, well, maybe the content's not adding the value that it once was. Where on a flip side, if you think about like an organic backlink growth, backlinks come in a few a month, and as the website grows and as more content's published, backlinks come up more frequently. Then Google's just seeing a more natural growth and saying, oh, the content's more valuable, the website's growing, people are linking to it more. It just like kind of makes sense in their eyes. So kind of getting away from just the penalties of Google from building links, think more of like what makes sense for a website to really grow. What looks good to the user. Natural links helps with that, but if you're going to build backlinks, try and replicate backlink growth to the size of your website growth. As more articles rank, as more traffic comes in, as more content's published, try and have that line up with your backlink process.
And I take it you did that early on. So you were publishing a ton of content. You mentioned you were getting a decent number of links from like May to August. And what did you say, like 10 to 20 links?
Yeah, I do about 10 to 20 a month. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And then, so you stopped in August roughly?
Stopped in August and just focused on content for a few more months.
Okay, so at this point in time, are you building any more links?
Haven't built any more links and I haven't published an article since the middle of December.
Looking forward in 2021, what is the content and backlinking plan for this site?
So that's something that I think I'm going to see how the first few months of 2021 go in terms of content growth. Just the first 2 weeks of January, I don't know if there's some type of change in the algorithm that was past December, but content's actually really starting to rise in traffic again. And I don't think it's because of the seasonality side of it. It looks like content's starting to get another jump. My site is at the 8.5 month mark, which is great. I kind of want to see what happens when I get to the 1 year mark before I push out more content. I think in terms of just having your ads on your website, it's important to put out some fresh content even after a few months of not doing anything, just to show your ad providers that you're putting out fresh content and people are coming back to your site. I think I saw that somewhere. So I'm going to try and put out at least a couple articles just in March or April, but I have no, plan to put out a massive amount of content on this website until I see the growth that I'm expecting to see from the seasonal part of it.
Awesome. Okay, so it's not that you're not going to be busy because you're going to be working on publishing a lot of content elsewhere. So let's start the transition to your new project. Tell us about that. What's the goal? Why would you make such a goal?
I am really excited about this project. So, this started on one night in the first week of December. I was actually doing keyword research for my first website, and I stumbled upon a site that already had an article written for that keyword. And I was kind of amazed that that site had that keyword written already because I was like, oh, I thought I'm kind of targeting a keyword that's pretty underserved and no one's gone after. So I clicked on the site and I ran it through Ubersuggest, Ahrefs, and SEMrush just to see what type of traffic it was getting. And it was getting 900,000 organic searches a month, and the site was 11 months old. So then everything started turning, and I was like, how can I replicate this? The site had little to no authority in terms of links. It was just a massive content push. So I kind of went through the website and I figured out the website published over 1,000 articles. It wound up being like 1,020 articles, all informational topics, answering just simple questions in Google that were underserved. And it was such a simple site. I was like, I could do this and I could go after similar topics and be in the same niche and really thrive with it. So that's where the idea for my new website came. And knowing everything I learned from keyword research and understanding how these websites need to be built, I was going to make a real clean site with informational content pieces between 1,000 to 1,500 words. I was going to hire a team of writers, some that I already had, get them at a cheaper price than I had my writers on my first website because I knew the good writers already. I didn't have to spend money on test articles. And I would give them really structured format and templates for different themes within the articles on the site. So I had this big grand plan. I was going to do a ton of keyword research, have everything ready to outsource, and just start sending articles out in larger batches. And that's pretty much what I've done. And the site was launched on December 5th. And to this date, it already has 200 articles published in just 6.5 weeks, roughly. So the content push has been great. I literally spend every night uploading anywhere between 3 to 12 articles, depending on how many come in from the writers. I read them over, I edit them, I put a couple internal links in there to other articles on the site. And it takes about 10 minutes or so to publish an article and edit it and review it. Put on the site, I have deposited photos for images right now, and those images are really clean. It makes my site just look really professional. And the content push is just going to keep going until we get to 1,000 articles this year.
1,000 articles. Amazing. So you mentioned that you have like 200 articles published already. Do you have much traffic? Do you have any results to share already?
So right now I'm at the point where I'm kind of just getting excited about impressions in Google Search Console. I did use SERP Robot, which is a great tool to track keywords. I think for like $5 a month, you can track 300 keywords at a time. So I tossed like my first 300 keywords in there, even though only 200 have been published so far. And I am seeing some significant jumps in keywords starting to rank. But outside of really low competition keywords, nothing seems to be in the top 10 just yet. I just think it's really too early to tell or to see any results. So no traffic, maybe a couple, maybe 2 or 3 clicks a day at this point.
All right. And you mentioned that the keyword that you found was on a site that you didn't think it was going to have that content. So is it related to your original niche, or is it just kind of a adjacent topic area?
It's an adjacent topic area. I think what I actually discovered was the site covered a piece of that idea within its article. It wasn't the main topic. I think it wound up being maybe a subheading that caused me to click on it because it still won the snippet, which I was fascinated about. But I noticed something about how they formatted their articles, which this is the key to building my new site, is they would answer the question and they would do a bolded response that directly answered it and then gave 1 or 2 supporting sentences to that subheading or main heading of the article. So within each 1,000-word article, they were providing answers for roughly 5 or 6 questions really closely related to that topic. So yeah, maybe if they were getting 20 searches from each topic a month, that's not a big deal. But if they had it for 5 times in one article, they were getting a substantial amount of traffic for a 1,000-word article. And that's what I really picked up. And I think it's something I did accidentally on my first site with winning snippets and doing a good job of that. Like maybe, I don't know, 30 or 40 articles won the snippet for those type of phrases on my first site. But my goal for this site was every article should have the chance of winning a snippet. Like every time I hit publish, I should have edited that article or had the writer work on it in a way that it makes sense that it will win the snippet. Like it has to, because this is the way it's formatted. It's providing a clear and concise answer, and it's getting to the point.
We'd love to get a hold of that template. It sounds like it's pretty powerful, huh?
It's really worked some wonders, and I've seen the power of it just from that first site. I think stumbling upon this website changed my views of building authority websites and putting out informational content. So yeah, I would love to go over that template with you. Maybe it's something we do together, Doug.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll probably do another interview. We can like dive in and just make it available for people out there. So yeah, I'd like to see the templates too. Maybe I can get a sneak peek before we actually do the interview. So very cool. Very cool. So you're going to do 1,000 articles. You have 200 already. Are you, I guess, do you have like the content planned out far enough? Do you have all those keywords already, or where are you at in the process?
Yeah, so I looked earlier today and I'm up to 475 topics that I have laid out. So obviously 200 is published. I have another 275 to go. It's not like I'm targeting a topic and completely covering every area in that category. It's more about me going after categories that other sites in that space have made, and there's just a lot of topics they've never covered. So I'm really just going after things that don't have topics written about before. They haven't really been mentioned before in an article on, a competitor's site. And once I think I saturated a good amount of the topics that I wanted to go after that no one else did, then I move on to like my next category. And I usually have a writer working on each category just to kind of keep things clear and keep the format concrete for that writer.
So just to repeat, you are focusing kind of in a topic area. You use the word category, but you're kind of focusing on a set of topics at a time. And I imagine that helps build relevance for that topic with Google. Is that kind of the strategy, or is it just the way it worked out as you were doing keyword research?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I know it's true. I know topical relevancy matters and understanding that's important, but I also want to see like what topics actually, like just because competition's low, like does it have the traffic that supports it? So I don't want to go too all in on one category or topic until I really see it work. Then maybe when I go after and pump out 50 to 100 articles in that one topic, the keyword relevancy and the topical authority will come into play more then. But right now, it's just kind of putting out a bunch of like different lines and seeing which one's the best pull, like which one's the area to really, really, jump down on. And I'll probably know that in the next couple months just from what's initially ranking and what's the initial position that it finds in Google.
Do you have any handle on the potential of this site, either as far as traffic or revenue that you're looking for? Maybe you can give us like a 6 month and 1 year and like long term vision that you have.
Sure. So just to keep things simple in terms of numbers, I said 1,000 articles. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what's the expense for that? How much is that going to cost? So the writing team I have right now, and I'm really confident with the way they're writing articles, and I'm really happy with what they're doing. I've got it down to a rate where I'm paying 2 cents per word, which winds up being $20 per 1,000 word article. I also have a few writers that are writing more simpler posts that just require less research just because I give them such a structured format. It's very easy for them. I was able to get those articles down to $15 per 1,000 word article, which has been really awesome. So if we just put an average of, let's say, $17.50 per article, that's 1,000 words. Getting to 1,000 articles will cost roughly $17,500 just in terms of my content plan. Now, I really don't have an idea of spending money anywhere else. I mean, I did pay for a small subscription just to get photos on my website that looked really good. But at $17,500 initial investment, I mean, the question is, what type of return do I have to see on that where I'm confident that my investment worked? And just to kind of throw around numbers, let's say the website made $1,000, right? And let's just stick to ads for right now, not even adding in the fact that I could throw Amazon affiliates into this. If I hit $1,000 a month, what type of traffic do I need to achieve that $1,000 a month? And then what does that $1,000 mean for the year? So if I make $1,000 a month, I can make my total money back on the site in a year and a half, which I think's really, really good. But I think at $1,000 a month, the traffic that would take could even be, let's say, 75,000 views at a $15 RPM. I think 75,000 views would be very underwhelming for a thousand articles, especially with the grasp I have on keyword research. So my expectation, I think, for the first year of the website, so 1 year from now, considering the site is not seasonal, is I think the website should be able to get to 50,000 page views. And at 50,000 page views with, I don't know, a $10 RPM should easily be $500 a month. And that's being on the conservative side of everything going on. And then at a $500 a month income, just the website's worth in terms of, the multiple on that at 30 times would get me to 15 grand. So that means in 1 year, I already made my money back in terms of the website's asset value. I think I feel pretty confident thinking that off the bat, but I have big expectations for this website. I wouldn't be shocked to see it get into, the 200, 300,000 view range for 1,000 articles. I don't think that's out of reach.
I don't think so either. That seems like a reasonable amount of traffic, and then those are relatively conservative estimates. And I know actually there were a few comments on your original interview where people were like, "Hey, Charlie's not an everyman who like doesn't have the money to invest. This is not a practical story." And I mean, I fired back like right away because I have case studies where it's like, hey, I spent $10,000. It's not all in one day, by the way, everyone. It's over the course of several months, in your case, a year. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on people that had an issue with the amount that you were able to invest?
I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't just like a fun project we're all throwing aside. Like, we all treat these websites as businesses. And this is just like someone else going out and starting a business in their local town or community. And that's the way I'm going to approach this, right? Like, this is a business venture. I'm tracking all my expenses, tracking the opportunity. Like Doug mentioned, this isn't just one large cost up front. This is going to be over many months. And another way to think about it too is, I mean, just because someone's putting a lot of money into a site doesn't mean they have all this money to play with and just throw around. Like, they could be taking sacrifices elsewhere, spending less money in other spots to really grow their vision or idea. And that's really what this is. It's just growing a vision or idea. And you can see when I started my first website, I didn't have any plans at all of getting to 1,000 articles. But the business thing you want to focus on here is if things start working, even if you just put out, let's say 25 articles, 50 articles, if you see things working and you can start scaling up, even just from money that you make from the content that's already on your site, like understanding how people do it on a larger scale can be extremely important to implementing those tactics and ideas for growing a smaller website. Yeah, it may take a longer period of time, but maybe you can mitigate a lot of risk from understanding what a larger story does and pick up some of the things that, they might have made mistakes in.
Well said. I can share one of my stories where basically I did exactly what you're talking about. I made an initial investment in some content, and I eventually published a lot over time, but it was a sort of a snowball rolling downhill situation where I kept reinvesting a little bit more to help grow the site. And then at some point I was comfortable with the amount of content, and I wasn't going to keep up that publishing schedule. So I throttled back, and then I was able to, take the profits, put it somewhere else, or save the money, or whatever I did with it. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways people can take this. And I hope folks aren't getting the sort of idea like, hey, this is just like an impractical, silly idea. It doesn't apply to me. So I mean, the fact is, if you, we're not going to do this, but if we gave someone $50,000 and we said you can hire whoever you want, there's a lot of people that are going to fuck it up. It's not easy to go hire a team. There's a lot of complicated things you have to deal with. So just because you have the money doesn't mean like, hey, it's easy to go do X if I had $20,000. I guarantee you, how many writers do you have, Charlie?
Right now I'm up to 8.
Okay. Well, it's not so hard. No, I'm just kidding. Managing 8 writers and getting them to publish a lot of content, and you're actually serving as the editor and content manager and all that stuff. So it's not a trivial exercise. And I want to point it out because it is there was a set of people who were like, hey, this is not for me. You can learn something. You could learn something from people that are scaling. You could take those ideas. So, Okay, very good. Anything else that you're looking forward to with this case study here?
Yeah, so I think I'm excited about it too because I think I'm going to hold myself really accountable to just hitting goals and keeping on track with content. I mean, my first website, I was really excited just because it was my first site in the space, and I was really passionate about what my site was about. While I still like the niche of this website, the fact that I have a following and a community behind me is a little bit more motivating to kind of get content up and start really showing some traffic numbers and updating that on my YouTube channel and sharing that with everyone. I'm really excited about that part of it as well, and I think I could really help a lot of people who are willing to learn and willing to see what happens with it from the journey, which excites me.
Yeah, you're definitely accountable because you're going to be blogging on this at Niche Site Project each month. So even if nothing happens, you're still writing a blog post over there.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward. That's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool cross promotion situation. So just for full like transparency, I saw Charlie was starting a YouTube channel, and I thought, hey, that's cool. He's documenting this stuff. I also knew that Charlie was actually writing out some updates on a forum, and basically I was like, oh, he can write those updates at a place where more people potentially can see it and not on a forum sort of like behind the walls there. So yeah, I proposed the idea. It seemed like a win-win for both of us. So we are sort of cross promoting and detailing all this stuff over on Niche Site Project. Did you have any do you have anything else to add with the cross promotion that we're doing?
Yeah, I think a neat thing too is, I mean, Doug brings a lot of experience in Amazon space, and he has plenty of case studies and prior websites that he's made a lot of money on doing that. I think me attacking an all informational like site brings a really interesting dynamic because I'm sure Doug's written plenty of informational articles before, but having a site that solely relies on informational content to kind of keep it afloat will be interesting to see. And I think bouncing ideas off one another could really add a lot to the table for how we can monetize our sites going forward.
Awesome. Well, anything else that we should talk about that I didn't ask you about?
I think another question that I get a lot is my workflow. How do I do all this? And when do I research keywords? When do I publish the articles? And how long does that take? These writers good? So I feel like I'll just give a quick preview on the hiring process for Upwork and when I look at a writer, kind of what I do. So I do have a template that I mentioned with Doug. I have a few templates depending on the type of article that it is. But one thing that I really want to do is when I hire that writer, I want to have them just excited about the project as I am. So one thing I often say is, I'm building a very large blog with a lot of content. I would like you to be a part of it. I'm going to send you a test article at a set price, let's say $20, $25. Let's see how the article goes. I can critique, make edits to that article as I see fit. If it's an opportunity where that writer can join my team, I'll give them some extra effort in terms of editing that content. If I don't think it's a good fit, I kind of even toss out the article or just wind up putting it aside. And one day I'll get to it and just edit it completely. But I want to have a writer that says, oh, wow, they're uploading a lot of content. Yeah, I'll write for that blog and I'm willing to take a little bit of a discount. So I'm able to get these writers that normally charge between, $25 to $35 per 1,000 word article for around $20 because I'm sending them 10 articles at once for a week. So I send those articles out to them. They send me those articles as they're being completed. So every night when I check my inbox after my day at work, I'll have like a couple articles from each writer, which is perfect because it's not like a daunting task to upload like 30 articles in one day. And I upload those articles. They're usually a different theme. So it's like more entertaining to review a topic that I'm not really reading the same format over and over. It's like slightly different from each one of these writers. It takes around 10 to 15 minutes to edit an article. I put a really nice high quality image on there, upload the article, submit the link to Google Search Console, add it to my keyword tracker if it's not already in there, and on to the next one. And just, getting in that process of understanding what content you're outsourcing, what's coming in, and getting up on your site as fast as possible, I think is just as important as writing the content yourself and writing on a frequent basis. If you have content coming in, letting that content sit for a week or 2 weeks or even a month can really slow down the growth of your website. So I make sure there's no time lost between articles coming in and articles being published.
And if people are wondering why a freelancer would accept lower than their normal rate, it's because it takes time for someone to find other gigs to work on. And if they don't have to search for a job and they know that they can work with you for months, maybe a year or more, they will take less money. And I've seen this, time and time again. I mean, it's nice to have regular work. They don't have to go and look through all the different job postings and go through interviews or anything like that. Are there any other advantages for them that you could think of, Charlie?
So I think one thing I've stumbled across a few times is writers know other writers on Upwork and they appreciate the frequent business. And then they also can refer me to other writers that they know. So not only are they going to get consistent long-term business, they may have somebody else that's maybe part of the same writing agency or somebody that they just know personally that they can refer me to. I've already had 3 different scenarios of that, and 2 of the times I actually hired the other writer. So I think it's good for them to kind of build their network, and especially for the writers that are earlier into Upwork, it allows them to build out their profile, get strong reviews. It shows the amount of money that they earn on Upwork, so that number will only rise with the more articles you take on with one person. So I definitely think there's a lot in there for them.
I didn't even think of that. Using the network of the writer. That's a great way to find other writers.
Yeah, it's been really working nicely. Another cool thing I'm doing now is if I'm trying to go after a topic for my site that I haven't really come up with a format yet or a template, I hire a really expensive writer and I tell them what my mission is and I send them the link to my website and tell them what I'm trying to do. And even if it's like $60 for 1,000 words, I'll tell them, hey, I'll pay you 75 for 1,500 words, and I want you to write me an article, and then I'll really critique it. So I get like the perfect template where I can go back to my other writers and say, hey, this is what I need. So I think I found one writer that I really like that I think her job is literally just going to be to write really high quality pieces of content that will be the templates that I use for my other writers. And I'm going to see how that goes, which I'm excited about.
Oh, that's a cool idea. I never even thought of that, to like put the expert, the best person for certain jobs, to get it sort of kicked off in the right way.
Yeah, and the cool thing is I found someone that's also an expert in that space, in that niche, which they probably know more about it than I do. So I think what other elements they could add to it and kind of the research they put into it will maybe inspire my current writers to say, oh, I didn't think of it that way, where I would have never thought it that way either. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Any other thoughts about this other project, the new project?
So I think the last part is when do I expect to hit 1,000 articles? I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's, people say that and are they actually going to accomplish it? So in the first 6.5 weeks, I did get to 200 articles. I think at the current pace I'm on, I see a path where I can get to 1,000 articles by August. Despite any setback, I should be fine. It's going to be a significant amount of money, but it is going to be broken up over the course of 9 months from December to August. So I think financially I can do it. It makes sense. And I want to have everything kind of up as soon as possible so the content can have time to sit and age and really grow.
All right. Well, you could have given yourself more time, man. You got the whole year, but you're saying August.
That's the goal. And then at least if it doesn't work out, I have September to play with. And then gotta get ready for the holidays.
Okay. Well, awesome. We will obviously be checking in on your YouTube channel. People could find the link in the description and show notes. We'll be, getting updates from you on a regular basis, both here on the podcast, YouTube, and on the blog. So many different formats for people to follow along. Anything else to add, Charlie?
Nothing else. Tune into Niche Side Project for the monthly updates and the occasional, helpful video on my YouTube channel and income reports.
All right. And we'll definitely be doing that sort of content template discussion probably in a few weeks here.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, Doug, take care.
Thanks to Charlie, and definitely check out his channel. He's publishing quite a few updates, kind of tracking things along the way. And don't forget, if you're brand new to the channel, if you dig these kind of interviews, you should subscribe. So hit the subscribe button, click that little bell for notifications. And if you really want to make sure that you stay up to date, go to nichesiteproject.com and sign up for the email list.